Welcome back to Frankly Speaking. Tonight we have a little interesting show with us tonight. Tom LaRoe. Am I saying that correctly?
Right, yes.
We're going to talk about the gray birds who have now come to roost in Vietnam. What are the gray birds, Tom?
Gray birds are C-130 or C-123 aircraft, and they were painted all gray. Didn't have any markings on them at all.
Where did they come to roost and when?
They came to roost in Nha Trang Air Base in Vietnam.
And what year were you there?
I was there in 65 and 66.
And what did you do?
I was aircraft maintenance.
Was that your job totally, what they told you where you were going to go? What did they tell you before you went overseas that you'd be doing?
Well, first of all, we were supposed to be going over there on O-1E birds, observation planes for Air Force. And basically, we beat the planes over. So they split our teams up. Not only that, but Pleiku had been bombed. And so we were supposed to go to Pleiku, but they sent us half the team to Ben Hoa and the other half to Nha Trang. And I was sent to Nha Trang.
Now, what was the mission that you were told that you were going to do?
On these gray birds? Well, they basically, it was just a classified mission, and we weren't supposed to know anything about it, or
need to know only?
Need to know only.
What happened when you got there? What was the first thing that you noticed?
When they took us to the gray birds, it struck me kind of funny that see aircraft without markings on it, and basically they were clean, and that's the way we had to keep them.
Describe what this aircraft looks like.
Basically, it looks like a small 130, only it has two engines, reciprocating engines, and it has...
Dimension-wise?
Dimension-wise, it's probably about 70 feet long, and a wingspan on it is probably about 120.
And how many actually fly the aircraft?
There's a crew of 4, basically, and then you have your loadmaster and that in the back, and your flight chief.
What are they normally used for? Just observation?
Transportation.
Transportation?
Basically, they just transported ammunition and people to one place to another.
What were they used for when you were there?
They were used for covert operations up in the north, and basically they took special forces and Nung guards. They took them up north and dropped them, and then they would resupply them and pick them up. It was what they call infiltrate and exfiltrate.
Meaning?
Resupply. Well, they'd take troops in, and then they'd go and retract them. They'd take them out.
Did you know what their mission was?
No, I did not.
Did anybody know what their mission was?
No, not actually. The pilots were from Taiwan. They were Chinese nationalists. And they had 38 Chinese nationalists and 22 Vietnamese, South Vietnamese. And they trained them in Florida.
Were there any American forces as such involved?
There was Air Commando crew members, like loadmasters and crew chiefs and that.
Actual combat troops as such, though?
Basically trained, yes.
Trained, only?
Only.
And this is 1965?
65.
When we talked once before, and by the way, I'm reading this thing in the paper, and we had spoken about this, there was an incident where these aircraft had actually operated outside of the limits of where they're supposed to be. Now, we're not talking about being in Vietnam as such.
No.
Where are these aircraft now located?
Well, they had 7 countries that they could fly in, and their unit patch had 7 stars on it.
Which means?
Which means it has 7 countries they could fly in, and one was China, North Vietnam, South Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, island of Hainan, and Taiwan.
When you were there, did you notice any forces going the Gray Bird and some of the people involved with it. Okay? We'll be right back right after this.
Bored? Restless? Thinking about making a move? Then get moving.
Go above and beyond.
It's about experience.
It's yours for the taking.
Get it.
Air Force Reserve. Working together.
It's about contribution.
Making it happen.
Make it.
Adventure. Rewards.
It's about satisfaction.
Education.
Find it. Air Force Reserve. Above and beyond.
1-800-257-1212.
Hi, welcome back. Tom, when you look back at this, well, let me rephrase this. When you saw these people going out on these missions, how many of them didn't come back? Do you have any idea or count in your own, just looking at this, observing?
Well, when I was there working on them, we had one aircraft that went north, and it come back with a couple hundred bullet holes in it. Now, they did lose crew members on that one. The thing is, we patched it up with tape, duct tape, and they flew it back to Taiwan. That's where their home base was in Taiwan. On the way back, they lost the aircraft, lost it at sea.
Oh, wow.
And nobody knew about it. I didn't find out until 34 years later. And the other one I knew about at the time it happened was the aircraft had single letter letters for their call sign, ending at Tonsanut Air Base. They say it exploded midair, but we got the word it got shot down on approach. And all the crew members lost on that one. There was about 4 of them. And basically it was just, we had one Air Force tech sergeant and 2 Chinese nationals pilots and 1 Vietnamese South Gunner.
When you look back at this, was this really worth it? Do you think?
No, I don't think so.
Why?
I really don't. Basically, what they did when they went up there, it just, they did sabotage and intelligence works and all that, but it didn't really amount to anything. I mean, the way the war ended.
Kind of anticlimactic,
Yes,
didn't it?
it is.
Yeah. I'm going to go back a little bit back and forth on this. At one point you were working for NASA. What's that like?
Well, it was exhilarating.
What did you do?
I was a crew chief on a T-28 aircraft. Later on I went to Vietnam, but it had a photographer in the back seat. And we tested parachutes for the Gemini and the Apollo and the Mercury project. And they would use those parachutes, fly 130, and drop the capsule out of the back of the 130, and it would land in the Salton Sea.
Oh,
And that's where they tested it.
out here in the Salton Sea?
Yes, yes.
Then this wasn't tested in Florida then?
No,
No, it was all out here.
all
then.
out here in California.
Okay. Did you get to meet any of the astronauts?
If I did, I didn't recognize him. It was all new to me.
Oh, okay. So did you work with actually these people? That was it, your job there, or did you do it?
I worked on the aircraft, and we would go out to the Salton Sea and watch the drops and everything. So
Did you get to fly in the rocket?
No, no.
They wouldn't let you fly the rocket? Oh, come on, Tom. Don't tell the truth now. You wanted to be an astronaut.
Wanted to go sit down in the capsule, yeah.
Didn't you really?
No.
No? Okay.
No, we could get close to it, but basically it was just a mock-up, basically, the same weight and everything. And they would just, they would test it with 1 or 2 parachutes, and then they would test it with 3 parachutes to get a life splash down.
How long? How long did you work with these people?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's all you were doing then in 5 years? For these
Well, no, I was basically I was a detachment out of Edwards Air Force Base down in NFL Central, and we would take the 130s at times and go up to Area 51, and we'd sit there and wait for the X-15 rocket to land. If it missed its approach at Edwards, it would land at Area 51, and we were there to resupply it and get it ready to
Fuel it up.
fuel it. Well, no, they wouldn't take off on the ground. They were dropping them.
No, that's right. They were taken up and then
Right,
dropped.
Right.
So how did they get them back?
They just carted them back by trailer or enclosed trailers.
You were at 51, Area 51? The mysterious...
Way out in the end, not
Yeah.
close.
You didn't see the flying saucer or any of
No,
the...
they kept us out on the end of the 26-mile runway.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you ever talk to any of those people out there at Site 51 at that
No,
time?
no, they wouldn't let us near it.
They wouldn't let you get anywhere near any of that stuff, huh?
We had armed guards out there and everything, so we wouldn't leave the aircraft.
So you don't know any more about this than anybody else, then?
No.
Oh, interesting. What was it? Working for NASA, you were in the military, I take it.
Right.
Why do we always have this problem with NASA and overruns or any of this stuff? Is it a redundancy in working with their people? Or why? I mean, it just seems like they're always running over or something's problem with them.
That I couldn't get into it. I never, got that close to NASA, so I wouldn't really. But I know that they did do a lot of operations as far as the capsules and rebuilding the parachutes. And
What year was this?
this was in 1960 and 61.
1661.
Yeah, that's when we first got the Gemini in, and then we got the Mercury in, and then we got the Apollo in, and it spanned from 60 to 64.
Do you ever talk to the people that you served with in Vietnam?
No, recently I've talked to people that were in the Trang because they called me up and they have what they call the Trang reunion, which I never knew about. And I just found out about it, and they just had a reunion down in Florida this past weekend.
Did you go?
No,
No. Okay.
I'm working stiff.
Well, I understand. It's an interesting thing. I read this thing in the paper, and you live now in
Sun City.
Sun City. That's quite a leap from Vietnam to Sun City.
Yeah.
Why?
I was 25 when I was over there.
Yeah.
I'm 60 now, so
Oh,
I'm getting ready to retire.
oh, you're getting out of this, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But it just haunted me for 34 years, and I just finally got it off my chest.
Did anybody from the government ever talk to you about this, or have you had any feedback from any of those people?
No, none.
Not a word.
Not a word.
Some of this has been declassified, but some of it's
Some
still...
of it hasn't.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, some of this has not, and no one has ever said anything?
No.
Has anybody, or to your knowledge, ever traced back on pilots, non-American pilots, Chinese and whatever, happened to them? Or did you know when you left? You left in '66, right?
Well, I left in '66. They were still there, but basically, I was working on the 01s, and I would only come back to the Trang. I was out in the field for 8 months, and I would come back in the Trang for just maybe 2 or 3 days, and pick up another plane and go back.
When you were out in the field, did you feel like you were under threat of fire?
Oh yeah, every night.
Were you?
Oh yeah.
What was it like?
It was fearful and it was nerve-wracking, basically.
Like, for example, one night, what would happen?
Well, I was up at Dung Ha, and every night, what it was up there is the crew chiefs stayed at Dung Ha. The airplanes went back to Quang Tri with the pilots, and they would fly up the next morning, and then we'd go out on a mission. And at night, the Viet Cong would come in and bomb the runway, and every morning we'd have to go out and fill it in so the pilots could, the planes could land. And this was every night.
Every night?
Every night.
Did you have any troops out there to go out and sweep the area?
24 ARVN troops.
24?
ARVN troops. That was it.
Just barely a patrol.
Yeah, it's just barely. So they couldn't do much of the sweep.
No, I wouldn't think not. What was your defense perimeter like then?
About like from here in Boulevard out here, there's just no barbed wire or anything.
Nothing, just wide open?
Just wide open.
Did you have to go out and defend yourself then with a weapon yourself?
No. We pretty much stayed on there. We had a little compound. And it was basically built up with sandbags. And we would stay there.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't come up on the compound, but they wanted the runway disassembled.
Did anybody ever get a head count as to how many people were shot up and killed out there?
The Dung Ha?
Yeah.
As far as what? As,
Any of them? Any of your people? Any of them?
No, not until after I left.
Hmm. Were they getting hit pretty regularly?
Yeah, they were. We got one time Vice Admiral, or not Vice Admiral, but Air Marshal Kai went up there with his wife, and I guess they had a big, like a party or a get-together up there. Well, he left at 3 o'clock in the morning on his helicopter. Well, evidently the Viet Cong thought he was still there. That's the only time that they mortared the compound. And they killed the Army radio man. And all the Army did was just go down the way and pick another one up and bring him back.
And that was it, huh?
Meant nothing to him.
Did they ever tell you that if you were under attack, run for your life or fight for your life or anything?
Don't get captured.
Don't get captured.
That was the main thing. Don't get captured.
Really?
Yeah.
How would you not get captured if they wanted to overrun it?
You either run, hide, or did whatever you had to do. And
do you think you were close to that at one point or another?
yes, I was. One
For
time.
example?
Well, up there at Dung Ha,
Yeah.
because the radio man was only about 25 feet away from me when he got it. And I thought I was next.
They were firing in mortar rounds?
More around 60 millimeter.
60s? What did you have to fire back?
AR-15s at that time.
That's it?
That's
No military,
no, they
artillery
didn't,
at all?
They didn't bring the artillery in until after the...
Reinforced with any other troops at all?
no, not at that time. That was all the way up until May of '66.
So you were out there by yourself?
Yes.
How many other bases do you know of that were like that?
They used to take and shave the top off of a hill, enough to land maybe 600-700 yards, enough to land an airplane on, and basically crew chief and pilot and 25 armed troop.
And that's it?
And that's it.
Brave man. I know, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to an end of the segment here, but again, this is an example of a tragic time in our history, and here's one of the men that lived it. We'll be right back right after this.
Imagine walking down the street and your bones start to crumble. Well, this is happening right now to half the women in America. It's called osteoporosis. It starts in your 30s. Your bones lose their density and their strength. They become brittle. They break easily. But there is good news about osteoporosis. You don't have to get it. You can treat it. You can beat it. Just see your doctor to find out how. Now.
You can see me now because you have your sight. It's a precious thing, sight. But if you're over 60 or black and over 40, there is something that could take it away. Glaucoma. Unless you discover it early through a dilated eye exam. If you're at risk, get a dilated eye exam at least every 2 years. Don't give glaucoma a chance.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking. With me in this segment here is David Hendricks from the Press Enterprise, and I believe you know him. He's a familiar guest from time. And also staying with us here is Tom. Dave, we talked about Site 85. What do you know about Site 85?
Site 85, I kind of backed into when a number of years ago I was doing research about POWs and MIAs. I ran across a group of